Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you're looking for really solid information and analysis, you are definitely in the right place. It's kind of like visiting Mind Expansion Daily for that daily dose of well-informed understanding we all need. And hey, if you appreciate these kinds of deep explorations we do, please take a second and like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily right now. Seriously, it helps us a lot. And, if you really love what we're doing, maybe consider buying us a coffee. The link for that is always right there in the description. Easy to find. Okay, so today, we're diving into something pretty startling. It's a reality hidden inside one of the world's, wealthiest cities. We're talking about Hong Kong's extreme housing inequality, specifically the shocking truth of what they call caged homes.
Yeah, it's genuinely difficult to comprehend. A humanitarian crisis, really, unfolding right there amidst incredible prosperity.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really get a handle on this, understand the dire reality, the systemic issues driving it, and also the human stories, because there's incredible struggle, but also resilience.
hmm And we've looked at quite a bit of material for this, reports like Hong Kong's caged homes, a crisis of inequality, plus various articles detailing daily life, government responses. It gives a pretty clear, if grim, picture.
Okay, let's unpack this. When you first hear caged homes, it paints a pretty visceral image, doesn't it?
It does, and sadly, it's not far off.
We're talking about these tiny, tiny metal mesh enclosures, sometimes smaller than 1.5 square meters.
Which is barely bigger than a single bed. Think about that.
They literally look like cages, sometimes called coffin homes too, or bed space apartments.
Yeah, those names tell you a lot about the desperation involved.
And the scale. This isn't just a few people. We're talking over 220,000 people living like this.
That's about 3% of Hong Kong's entire population of 7.5 million. It's significant.
And they're not hidden away somewhere remote. These are in subdivided units, old tenement buildings, right in busy central districts like Sham Shui Po and Mong Kok.
Right in the thick of things.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, or perhaps just deeply upsetting. The paradox. Hong Kong, as of August 19, 2025, it's the world's least affordable housing market. Home prices are something like 16.7 times the median income.
And astronomical.
And yet, these tiny cage spaces, they rent for HK $1,500 to HK $3,000 a month. That's roughly 190 to 382 USD.
Which sounds low, maybe, until you do the math.
Exactly. Per square foot, these spaces are literally more expensive than luxury apartments in the same city.
Just let that sink in. It's unbelievable. The inequality is just stark.
And beyond the numbers, the cost.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is, the actual living conditions. It's not just small.
No, not at all. Imagine sometimes up to 30 people crammed into one subdivided flat, sharing maybe 1 or 2 communal bathrooms, a tiny kitchen space.
30 people, wow.
Yeah. The overcrowding is intense, and it's not just uncomfortable, it's a direct hit on health. The sources we looked at highlight really severe issues. Poor ventilation is a big one, lots of mildew, faulty plumbing, things you just wouldn't expect.
These aren't just small annoyances then.
Definitely not. They directly cause health problems. We're seeing stats like 60% of residents reporting skin conditions and 83% having sleep problems. Just think about trying to sleep in those conditions.
It's impossible.
Pretty much. And then there's the psychological side. There's virtually no privacy, maybe a curtain if you're lucky, separating you from dozens of others.
That constant proximity.
It fosters isolation, ironically, and seriously impacts mental health. Around 70% of residents report anxiety or depression. When we talk about basic human dignity, basic needs, these conditions are a fundamental failure.
It really puts the statistics into perspective, but the individual stories, they make it even more real. Our sources mention Mei Ling, a single mother, 2 kids, living in a 20-square-foot cage in Mong Kok.
20 square feet for 3 people.
Her day starts at 5 a.m., not because she wants to, but to get a spot in the communal kitchen, just to cook simple meals, rice and vegetables for her kids before school.
Just the logistics of daily life must be exhausting.
And think about the daily stresses beyond just being cramped. You mentioned sleep problems.
Absolutely. The sources describe this relentless grind, constant noise. Neighbors arguing, maybe faulty appliances buzzing or dripping. It makes restful sleep almost impossible.
And hygiene.
Bed bugs are a common complaint. Poor sanitation is just part of the reality. It adds another layer of stress.
And the financial strain must be immense.
For Mei Ling, yes. She pays HK $2,100 a month. That's about 268 USD. It eats up half her income. Half.
Leaving almost nothing for anything else. Food, clothes, school supplies.
Exactly. And her kids. There are among 50,000 children living in these subdivided units. Where do they study? Where do they play?
There's just no space. It's like their childhood is being stolen.
It really is.
And it sounds like this is often a temporary or rather a transient life for many.
Yeah,
Like Chan, a 45-year-old laborer mentioned in the sources, always moving, looking for something slightly less awful, maybe slightly cheaper.
that's very common. And the hope of getting out. Well, the public housing wait list is huge.
How long are we talking?
The average wait is 5.5 years, and there are 210,000 people on that list right now.
5.5 years. Living like that, it must feel hopeless.
It does. The sources mention about 60% of residents experience emotional instability. It makes sense.
This raises an important question. These stories, they're heartbreaking individually, but what do they tell us systemically?
They show that this isn't just about individual bad luck or poor choices. It reveals a deep systemic instability. These living conditions create a vicious cycle. Poor health, lack of sleep, mental distress. It all impacts your ability to work consistently, to earn more, to find a way out.
So it perpetuates poverty.
Exactly. And the health issues become chronic. So these aren't just housing problems, they're public health crises. They're social crises. It demands a much broader look.
It really is staggering. A city like Hong Kong, you just don't expect this level of, well, basic human rights crisis. How did it even get to this point? What's the history here?
We have to go back a bit. The roots are really in the 1950s. After the war, there was this huge influx of migrants from mainland China,
Right, a population boom.
a massive one. The population jumped from about 2 million to over 3.1 million by 1961. Caged homes first appeared then, mostly as a sort of temporary fix for low-income workers, often single men.
A stopgap measure that just never stopped.
Pretty much. Then other factors came into play. Policy decisions had a huge impact.
Like that small house policy I read about from the 70s.
Yes, 1972. That policy gives male indigenous villagers the right to build a house on their ancestral land in the new territories, often without paying the usual government land fees.
How does that connect to urban housing?
It seems niche, but it effectively ties up large areas of land that could potentially be used for high-density urban development. It constrains the supply of land where it's needed most.
So it created a bottleneck. And then the government's role in land sales.
That's
That's key too, right?
absolutely crucial. The Hong Kong government controls almost all land sales, and by tightly controlling the supply, prices have just gone through the roof.
Which leads to that $1.28 million median home price by 2025.
Exactly, and rents that. For half the city's apartments actually consume 122% of the average monthly income. Think about that figure. It's completely unsustainable.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it wasn't just land sales, right? Government actions or inactions played a role too.
Definitely. After the 1997 Asian financial crisis, the government significantly slowed down, almost halted public housing construction for a while.
Which just made the shortage worse.
Critically worse. And then there's the land use dilemma itself. Only about 30% of Hong Kong's land is actually urbanized.
Or only 30%. What's the rest?
A huge chunk, about 75% of the total land area, is protected country parks, greenbelts, which is great for the environment but severely limits space for building.
So, okay, the government is trying to preserve green space, which some argue is vital. But are there counterarguments in the sources? Like from developers, maybe?
Oh, absolutely. That's a central tension. Environmental groups obviously want to keep those green spaces. But many developers, economists, they argue that releasing more land, even some protected areas, or maybe pursuing more land reclamation from the sea, is the only way to really tackle the shortage head-on.
The market argument, increased supply, prices stabilize.
That's the theory. They'd say market forces would work if the supply wasn't so constrained. But as it stands, you have this structural land shortage combined with, frankly, a lot of speculative investment in property.
Driving prices further and further out of reach.
Precisely. And the end result, 1.4 million people. That's nearly 23% of the population living in what can only be called poverty-level conditions, often in these subdivided units or worse.
It's a grim picture. But even in these awful conditions, the sources talk about resilience, the human spirit finding ways to cope.
Yes, and it's incredibly moving. There's the story of Sum, a 72-year-old bachelor, pays HK $2,500, about $320 for his cotton home.
He used to be homeless.
Yes. And he's decorated his tiny space, put up a Chinese New Year poster that just says peace and safety. He finds comfort in Buddhist philosophy, saying, the past is the past.
Trying to find meaning amidst it all.
Exactly. And others too, like Xiao Bo, a 60-year-old retiree. He uses colorful decorations to personalize his space, fighting back against that psychological toll of being so confined.
Small acts of defiance,
In
almost.
a way, yes.
Huh.
And then there's Mr. Lau, a street cleaner. For him, the value is being close to work, even if it means living cramped. It's a practical adaptation.
And these stories resonate, right?
Yeah.
So mention of a post on X about this resilience getting 15,000 likes.
People see the humanity there, and beyond individuals, community groups are vital.
Like the Society for Community Organization, SOCO.
Yes, they're doing essential work. Volunteers distributing food parcels, advocating for policy changes, helping people navigate the system.
And Crystal Ying Chan's initiative, delivering healthcare and meals.
Right, reaching 500 families monthly. It's a critical lifeline, especially when public services are so strained. It provides immediate relief.
These acts of resilience, this community support, they're incredibly important.
They really are. They foster solidarity, which is so crucial when the living conditions themselves breed isolation. So Ellico supports about 1,000 families every year. It shows what grassroots efforts can achieve.
Okay, so that's the community response. What about the official government response? Are they acknowledging this?
Yes, there is an official response. The government has stated an aim urged by Beijing back in 2021 to eliminate caged homes entirely by 2049.
2049. That feels quite far away.
It does. They also have plans for building more public housing, 308,000 units by 2035. And there was that policy introduced in 2024 for subdivided units.
The one sitting minimum standards.
Right. Mandating at least 8 square meters per person plus windows and proper toilets starting in 2026.
That sounds like progress regulating these spaces.
On the surface, yes. But what's fascinating here is the criticism.
Yeah, there's always a catch.
Well, a big one. Critics point out that this new policy specifically excludes caged homes.
Excludes them.
Because caged homes or bed space apartments are regulated under a different, much older law, the Bed Space Apartments Ordinance. It's got different, often less stringent standards. So the new rules don't necessarily apply to the absolute worst conditions.
Creating a massive loophole.
Effectively, yes. And enforcement of even the existing rules is notoriously weak. Sources suggest 80% of these places operate illegally anyway, landlords exploiting loopholes.
So policy gets called a Band-Aid. I saw that mentioned, got like 20,000 shares online.
Exactly. And experts like Xiuming Chan warn that even if you do impose higher standards across the board without providing rent subsidies or more support,
You might just push rents up.
precisely,
Mm.
which could lead to mass evictions, making the most vulnerable people even worse off. It's a complex problem.
So what does this all mean? Looking broader now.
Well, Hong Kong's situation, while extreme, isn't entirely unique. It's a stark reflection of global urban housing challenges.
Right. The statistic was 1.6 billion people worldwide live in inadequate housing.
It's a global crisis, and the drivers we see in Hong Kong, intense land scarcity, markets driven by speculation rather than need, you see echoes of that in mega cities everywhere. Think Mumbai, think Lagos.
Similar pressures, similar outcomes of overcrowding and unaffordability.
Exactly. The Hong Kong government is trying other things like that $3.37 billion light housing project aiming for 30,000 temporary units by 2030.
But again, criticized as not nearly enough.
Given the scale, critics say it's a drop in the ocean. What Hong Kong really exposes is how specific policy choices, land use, government control over sales, allowing speculation can systematically undermine the basic right to housing, even in a place with immense wealth. It's a case study in policy failure, really.
So what are the potential pathways forward? Are there other ideas floating around?
There are. The sources mention several proposed solutions, things like implementing rent controls, which is controversial but has support,
What else?
more aggressive land reclamation, potentially, and repurposing empty industrial buildings for housing. That idea actually got 70% public support in a 2024 survey.
Interesting. And looking internationally.
You could look at models like the Horangi Town community-led sanitation project in Pakistan. It shows how bottom-up, community-driven initiatives can sometimes succeed where top-down government plans falter, especially in addressing basic needs in dense urban areas.
So it encourages thinking outside the usual boxes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It forces us to think critically about urban planning, economic models, and what we truly value when it comes to housing as a fundamental right, not just in Hong Kong, but globally.
So to sum up, Hong Kong's caged homes are this incredibly stark symbol of systemic inequality. We've seen the immense human suffering, but also that incredible resilience.
Definitely.
And this deep dive really shows it's not just a local issue, it's a humanitarian crisis with deep historical roots, made worse by specific policy choices. It needs urgent attention, globally as well as locally.
Couldn't agree more.
And that brings us to a final thought for you, our listener, something to mull over. How does understanding Hong Kong's housing crisis, this extreme situation in a wealthy city, challenge your own assumptions about wealth, about progress, and what fundamental human rights mean in our big global cities today? We really want to know what you think about all this. Have you ever faced housing struggles yourself, or seen similar kinds of situations, maybe less extreme but similar pressures, in your own city? Please leave a comment below. Tell us your thoughts on the topic. Do you agree with our summary of the sources? Disagree? Let us know. And also, please list the location you're listening from. We're really trying to grow Mind Expansion Daily's reach worldwide, and knowing where you are helps us do that. And of course, don't forget to like this deep dive and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily for more content like this. Finally, one last reminder, if you found this information valuable today, please do consider buying us a coffee. The link, as always, is in the description. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.